The cold black of space stretched endlessly before Commander Rylan Kane as he gripped the controls of his scout ship, the Ardent Light. The aftermath of the battle hung heavy in the void. Twisted metal and fire-scorched debris floated like ghostly memories of ships that had once bristled with life. The Drakari fleet had attacked swiftly, leaving death and ruin in its wake. Ryland's mission was simple: survey the wreckage, rescue any survivors, and gather intelligence. Yet, he never expected the signal he was about to find. A faint, irregular distress signal blinked on his console. It was weak, almost lost among the static from the surrounding wreckage. He frowned, leaning closer to the display. It didn't match any human frequency he knew. The pattern was elegant, almost musical, unlike the harsh signals of human tech. "Computer," he said, his voice steady despite the unease rising in his chest. "Trace the source and set a course." The ship hummed softly, its AI responding with efficiency. Signal located. Approximately 30 kilometers ahead, drifting near debris field Alpha 6. Estimated life signs, 1. Ryland's eyes narrowed. 1. That was a slim chance of survival in this chaos. Still, he didn't hesitate. He had pulled many survivors from the edge of death before. No one deserved to die alone in the cold void. He adjusted the controls, angling the Ardent Light through the floating wreckage with precision. Each move required care. A collision with debris could tear the ship apart. Sparks from destroyed ships glinted like distant stars, reflecting off his visor. Ryland's mind ran through the possibilities. It could be a human pilot, a merchant ship crew, or something else. He didn't know, but he was about to find out. As the scout ship approached the source, a small pod floated amid the wreckage. Inside, a figure curled into a fetal position, barely moving. Ryland's heart tightened at the sight. Even at a distance, the figure's form was unusual. Smaller and more delicate than a human, with limbs that seemed too slender and graceful, almost like a dancer's. He activated the ship's external lights, revealing more detail. The alien's skin was pale, almost translucent, and faint markings glimmered across her arms and neck, like tiny veins of silver running under a leaf. Her long hair floated around her head in the zero gravity, a halo of soft strands. Ryland swallowed hard. He had rescued many beings in his career, but this one was different. There was something almost regal in the way she seemed to hold herself, even in unconsciousness. "Hang on," he muttered. He maneuvered the ship closer, deploying the magnetic grappling arm. It extended carefully, weaving through floating wreckage to reach the pod. The motion sensors detected no movement from the Drakari. The battlefield was silent now, as if the universe itself had paused to witness this moment. The pod clinked as the grappling arm latched onto it, pulling it gently toward the ship. Ryland's hands moved with practiced ease, guiding it into the docking bay. Once inside, the airlock sealed, and he activated the pod's hatch. The alien woman slumped forward as if weightless, and Ryland caught her effortlessly. Her body was light but surprisingly strong, like a coiled spring. Her breathing was shallow, irregular, and there were faint scorch marks on her armor. Ryland set her down on a medical bed and activated the scanner. "Life signs are faint but stable," the AI reported. "Immediate medical attention required." Ryland knelt beside her, scanning her injuries. Burns, bruises, and fractures marred her body, but nothing that suggested she wouldn't survive with care. He activated the medkits, letting nanobots work to stabilize her. The alien stirred, opening her eyes slightly. They were the most striking thing about her, large, luminous, and shifting colors between blue and green like sunlight through water. She looked at him with a mixture of fear and curiosity, as if trying to understand him in a language beyond words.
"Easy, you're safe now," Ryland said softly, unsure if she could understand him.
She blinked slowly and let out a soft, melodic sound. It wasn't human, but it carried emotion, relief, gratitude, and something else. The ship jolted suddenly, a warning alarm flashing red. Ryland's heart skipped a beat. Sensors detected a residual Drakari patrol drone entering the debris field. It was likely scanning for survivors to eliminate. He cursed under his breath. He couldn't let the woman fall into their hands. "Computer evasive maneuvers, maximum speed," Rylan commanded. The ship's engines flared, twisting the ardent light through the debris with expert precision. The drone fired energy pulses, but Ryland's skillful navigation dodged each one. Sparks exploded around the ship as debris collided with shields, but neither he nor the alien woman were harmed. Finally, after tense minutes that felt like hours, the drone gave up and retreated. Rylan exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow. "That was close," he muttered, glancing at the woman. She was still watching him, alert now, her expression unreadable. "Do you understand me?" he asked, realizing he didn't know how to communicate with her. She responded with a soft musical tone, tilting her head. Rylan frowned. It was clear she wanted to speak but couldn't with the language barrier. He decided to focus on care first. The alien was cold to the touch, despite the medkits working to restore her warmth. Rylan adjusted the ship's temperature and covered her with a blanket. The metallic markings on her skin glimmered faintly, reacting to the ship's energy fields. Rylan felt a strange curiosity. Were they tattoos? A natural pattern? Or something more mysterious? Hours passed as Rylan monitored her recovery. The alien woman remained mostly silent, only emitting soft sounds that seemed musical. Rylan spoke to her occasionally, telling her about the battle, the Drakari, and the route to the nearest human outpost. She listened, her eyes fixed on him, absorbing every word. Rylan found himself talking more than usual. He had always been practical, focused on missions and objectives, but there was something about her presence that made him more human, more reflective. He shared stories of past battles, of comrades lost, and of victories that had come at terrible costs. As the distance to the human outpost decreased, the alien stirred again. She struggled to sit up, and Rylan gently helped her. Her touch was surprisingly strong, her fingers delicate but firm. She gestured to him, pointing at the console, then at herself. Rylan frowned. Was she trying to explain something? The AI translated a basic emergency protocol she had activated in her pod, revealing a star map of coordinates. The precision and complexity were beyond human technology. Rylan's jaw tightened. Whoever she was, she had knowledge that could change the course of the war. Night fell on the human outpost planet below as the ardent light entered orbit. Lights glimmered like a grid of stars mirrored on the surface. Rylan prepared to land, still unaware of the true significance of the woman beside him. He only knew one thing with certainty. He had saved a life, and that life would not be ordinary. The alien woman looked at him again, and for a brief moment, her expression softened, almost grateful. Then, almost imperceptibly, she bowed her head, a gesture of respect that transcended language. Rylan felt a chill, an instinctive sense that their meeting was no accident. The universe was vast, and yet, somehow, it had brought him to her. As the shuttle doors opened and the outpost came into view, Rylan couldn't shake the thought that this rescue was only the beginning. Somewhere beneath the surface of her fragile appearance, the alien carried a secret, one that could change everything he thought he knew about the war, about the galaxy, and perhaps even about himself. He glanced at her, then at the war-torn expanse outside, and whispered, almost to himself, "I'll keep you safe, no matter what." For the first time, the alien woman responded not with musical tones, but with a word, a single syllable, barely audible, yet filled with weight. Rylan's eyes widened. "Lyra, is that your name?" She nodded slightly, her eyes shining with an emotion he couldn't read. There was something regal in her bearing, even in weakness, something that hinted at importance far beyond what he could imagine. The shuttle touched down on the outpost. Emergency crews rushed to assist, unaware of the magnitude of what had arrived. Rylan carried Lyra carefully, her weight light, her presence commanding even in silence. He wondered, as he entered the medbay, what story she had to tell, what kind of life had been shattered on that battlefield, and why had fate placed her in his hands? No one could know yet, but Ryland sensed that saving her was more than an act of duty. It was the first step in a journey that would stretch across stars, into the heart of a war neither of them truly understood, and toward a destiny neither could escape. As the medical teams worked, Ryland stood back studying Lyra. She was beautiful, yes, but that was not what struck him. It was her presence, quiet, luminous, and filled with potential. He had no idea that by saving her, he had set the galaxy on a course that would challenge everything he thought he knew about courage, loyalty, and the human spirit. And somewhere deep inside him, Ryland knew the real battle had only just begun. The medbay lights were soft, casting a gentle glow over the alien woman as she lay on the bed, her breathing steady but cautious. Ryland stood nearby, arms crossed, watching the medical staff tend to her injuries. Despite the hum of activity, he couldn't take his eyes off her. She was extraordinary, unlike anyone he had ever met. Her form seemed fragile, yet the energy she radiated was undeniable. "Amanda Kane," the chief medic said, glancing at him with concern. "She's stabilized, but we need more tests. Her physiology is unlike anything we've seen. We're still learning how her body responds to our medical protocols." Ryland nodded, though his mind was elsewhere. He crouched beside the bed, trying to communicate again. Lyra stirred, her eyes fluttering open, and she gazed at him. The room was quiet, but in that silence, her gaze felt like it reached through him, measuring and understanding at the same time. "Can you understand me?" he asked, keeping his voice calm. She tilted her head slightly, making a soft, melodic sound. He frowned. Clearly she wasn't speaking human, yet he sensed she was trying. "Don't worry, Lyra," Ryland said, using the name she had whispered before.
"I'll help you. You're safe here." Her eyes softened for a moment, and she reached a hand toward his. It was small but surprisingly warm. He placed his hand over hers, feeling a subtle pulse of energy, a rhythm almost like a heartbeat but different, unique. Over the next hours, Ryland observed her closely. She began interacting with the ship's systems in a way that amazed him. When she touched the console, the interface responded to her presence alone, lights shifting and holograms rearranging as if recognizing her command. Ryland blinked. Human technology did not react this way. "What are you doing?" he asked cautiously. Leaning closer, she looked at him, then pointed at the map of the local sector displayed on the screen. Stars and planets shimmered, connected by lines that traced the fastest routes between them. Her fingers hovered over the holographic map, and the paths adjusted automatically, calculating maneuvers and coordinates faster than any human algorithm. "She's enhancing the system," the ship's AI reported. "Unknown energy signature detected. Processing interaction pattern." Ryland swallowed, a mix of awe and concern in his chest. "Enhancing or overriding?" he asked.
The AI hesitated. "Enhancement appears beneficial to ship operations. No threat detected."
Lyra's soft melodic hum filled the room, almost like she was speaking to the ship itself. Ryland's brow furrowed. Her abilities were extraordinary, but he still knew nothing about her. He had saved her, yes, but now he realized that she was more than a survivor. She carried knowledge, power, and perhaps influence he could barely comprehend. The next day, Ryland decided to speak to her again, trying a new approach. He brought a portable translator device used for alien species communication. It could detect tone, pitch, and rhythm to convert basic phrases into human speech. "Lyra, can you try to speak through this?" he asked gently, holding out the device. She hesitated, studying him. Then, with careful precision, she touched the device. A soft, musical voice emerged.
I am Lyra.
My people lost. Ryland's heart tightened. She had survived a battle that had claimed her civilization's lives. He leaned closer. You're safe now.
I'll help you get back to them.
Her eyes flickered with something unreadable. Gratitude, sorrow, determination. As the days passed, Rylan and Lyra grew more familiar with each other. He learned that she could manipulate energy in subtle ways, repairing circuits, recalibrating engines, and predicting system failures before they happened. It was like she had an innate understanding of technology, far beyond human capacity. During one quiet evening, Rylan asked, "Lyra, why were you alone in the battle? Where were the others?" She looked down, her fingers tracing patterns in the air. The translator struggled to keep up with her complex phrasing. Betrayed by some, left behind. Queen must survive. Rylan stiffened. Betrayal? Queen? Her words were disjointed, but the meaning hit him. He had saved not just any alien, but someone of significance, someone whose people and perhaps entire civilizations depended on her survival. His respect and curiosity deepened. Your people? They're important, aren't they? He asked carefully. She looked at him, eyes wide, and simply nodded. There was no arrogance, only a quiet, powerful presence that demanded recognition. Rylan realized that her survival could shift the balance of power in the sector. The Drakari were still out there, regrouping, and the human colonies were vulnerable. Yet here, in his ship, he had a living weapon of hope and intelligence, fragile yet extraordinary. One afternoon, while testing the ship's engines, Lyra moved closer to a damaged power conduit. Her fingers hovered over the exposed circuits, and a soft blue glow enveloped her hands. Sparks danced but did not harm her. Slowly, the conduit repaired itself, energy stabilizing across the system. Rylan watched in awe. You did that. She nodded, eyes calm. Learn. Fast, survive, help others. Her voice was melodic, almost like music, yet the meaning was clear. She was not just intelligent, she was a strategist, a survivor, and a protector. The crew began noticing her influence as well. Food synthesizers ran more efficiently, shields held stronger against minor debris impacts, and sensor arrays detected threats earlier than before. Rylan explained little, simply allowing her to work. But the others began to whisper about her abilities. Some were in awe, others uneasy, but all respected the presence of this mysterious alien woman who had survived a massacre and now subtly guided their ship. Rylan's bond with Lyra grew stronger. He discovered moments of quiet humanity, when she laughed softly at his clumsy attempts to explain human culture, or when she seemed fascinated by small human habits, like drinking coffee or adjusting the ship's gravity for comfort. These moments reminded him that beneath her power and grace, she was still a living being who had endured unimaginable loss. One night, as they orbited a quiet planet to gather resources, Rylan found Lyra gazing out at the stars. He joined her, standing beside her, silent. After a long pause, he said, "You've been through so much, and yet you're still here. How do you keep going?" Her luminous eyes turned to him, filled with a depth he couldn't describe. She spoke softly through the translator. "Must survive, must fight for my people, for future." The simplicity of her words contrasted with their weight. Every syllable carried the hope and responsibility of a civilization. Rylan felt a profound respect and a growing sense of responsibility. He had saved her, yes, but now he understood that she would be his equal in the battles to come. Together, they could face the Drakari, but only if they trusted each other completely. Over the following week, Rylan and Lyra trained together, combining human tactics with her unique abilities. They ran simulations of ship maneuvers, attacks, and defenses. Lyra learned quickly, adapting her strategies to human technology and expanding them beyond what the crew could predict. Her mind worked like a chess grandmaster, seeing several steps ahead. Rylan marveled at her foresight, realizing that with her guidance, they could anticipate almost any enemy move. But it wasn't all work. Rylan found himself laughing at her curiosity about human life, from her fascination with gravity games to the way she mimicked the crew's expressions in a humorous, almost playful way. In those moments, she seemed less like a survivor and more like a person, someone he could connect with beyond the battlefield. Yet, lurking beneath her calm demeanor was the tension of a queen in exile. Rylan sensed it in the way she would sometimes stiffen, her gaze scanning distant stars as if expecting betrayal, attack, or some unseen threat. He knew she carried more than knowledge or power. She carried the weight of responsibility, a burden that human minds could barely comprehend. One evening, the ship's alarms blared. Sensors detected a small Drakari patrol fleet approaching the sector. Rylan's heart raced. "They're here," he muttered. Lyra's eyes narrowed and she moved toward the tactical console. The glow from her hands bathed the room as she interfaced with the ship's systems. The AI adapted instantly, responding to her commands in ways it never had before. Together, Rylan and Lyra devised a plan. Using her knowledge of the sector's terrain and his human tactics, they would outmaneuver the patrol without direct confrontation. The crew watched, awestruck, as the alien woman guided their ship through complex maneuvers, predicting enemy movements before the Drakari even realized what was happening. The patrol fleet passed through the sector without engaging, unaware of the trap they had almost walked into. Rylan exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and admiration. Lyra turned to him, her luminous eyes reflecting the soft blue of the ship's systems. She didn't speak, yet the message was clear. Together, they could survive anything. That night, as the ship drifted in the quiet of space, Rylan realized something profound. Saving her had been only the beginning. Lyra was more than a survivor. She was a strategist, a leader, and perhaps the key to a new hope for the galaxy. And for the first time in years, Rylan felt that he wasn't just fighting for duty or honor. He was fighting alongside someone who could change everything, someone whose survival mattered as much as his own. And he knew, deep down, that the journey ahead would test both of them in ways they could not yet imagine. The quiet of the medbay was broken by a sudden jolt. Alarms blared, and the ardent light shuddered as the ship's shields flared against incoming fire. Rylan gripped the controls, heart pounding, and glanced at Lyra. She was already at the tactical console, her fingers hovering over the interface, as if she were part of the ship itself. "Drakari Patrol!" Rylan shouted, scanning the sensors. A small fleet had detected their presence and was moving in fast. They were aggressive, relentless, and far more organized than the previous scouts. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly, her hands moving in precise gestures that seemed to direct energy through the ship. Systems that had been damaged or unstable suddenly stabilized. Shields strengthened, engines responded with heightened speed, and targeting arrays adjusted with uncanny accuracy. "Hold steady," Lyra said softly. Her voice translated through the device. It was calm, commanding, and carried weight beyond her years. Or at least beyond what Rylan expected from someone who had been abandoned in battle. Rylan maneuvered the ship through the asteroid field nearby, weaving between massive rocks while Lyra coordinated the energy flow. The Drakari fired relentlessly, but their shots were deflected by shields or dodged by expert piloting. Rylan realized, almost in awe, that he had never worked with anyone like her. She was not just guiding the ship, she was anticipating enemy moves, predicting their patterns before they even executed them. As the patrol retreated, defeated but not destroyed, Rylan turned to Lyra. You did all of that alone?" She nodded, her expression calm but unreadable. Survive, protect, must. She was more than a survivor.
The skill, knowledge, and presence she exhibited were extraordinary, but he still didn't understand her past. Why had her people left her? Why had she been abandoned? And why was she so powerful, so precise, and so aware of things even human technology could not predict? The next day, as the ship traveled through the Outer Rim, Lyra requested access to a private room on the ship. Rylan followed, curious but cautious. The room was dimly lit, and she activated a holographic display that projected a map of a distant star system. Lines of light connected planets, ships, and unknown points.
"This is where I come from," she said, voice steady but tinged with sorrow.
Virelia, my people, my kingdom. Destroyed. Betrayed. Her luminous eyes met his, filled with a mix of pain and determination. Rylan listened carefully as she explained, using the translator to bridge the gap between their languages. She revealed that she was not just any survivor. She was Queen Lyra, the rightful ruler of her civilization. The battle that had left her adrift was no accident. A rival faction within her own people had staged a betrayal, leaving her to die while attempting to seize the throne. Rylan felt the weight of her words. He had saved a queen, someone whose survival meant more than one life. She was the symbol of hope for an entire people, and now she was in his hands.
"Why didn't they tell anyone you were the queen?" he asked. Her gaze darkened. Power, fear, greed. They wanted control. They left me to die, thinking the Drakari would finish what they began. Only I survived. Rylan clenched his fists. The betrayal was staggering, but her resolve was stronger. She was not broken. She was calculating, cautious, and ready to reclaim what was hers.
"You'll need allies," he said, thinking strategically.
Humans can help, but the Drakari won't stop. And your people, you can't reclaim the throne alone. Lyra nodded. I know. But trust must earned. Her words were simple, yet every syllable carried weight. She had survived deceit, battle, and near death. Trust would not come easily, and yet she looked at Rylan with a hint of expectation, as if silently asking for his loyalty. Rylan realized that their partnership had changed. He was no longer just her rescuer. He was now a key player in a much larger conflict. The responsibility was immense, but he did not hesitate.
"You have my loyalty, Lyra."
"I'll help you reclaim your people and fight the Drakari. We'll do this together."
Her eyes softened, and for the first time she smiled faintly. It was a small gesture, but it carried relief, gratitude, and something deeper. Hope. Over the next days they planned carefully. Lyra shared everything she could remember about the remaining loyal forces, the locations of her people, and the factions that had betrayed her. Rylan coordinated with human intelligence officers, crafting a strategy that combined human technology with Lyra's insight. It was a delicate balance. Too much exposure could alert the Drakari or her enemies within, but they needed precise action to survive. Training became a daily ritual. Rylan taught Lyra human combat techniques, piloting, and tactical maneuvers, while she taught him to integrate her knowledge into their strategies. Together, they created simulations of battle scenarios, blending their unique strengths. Lyra's ability to anticipate and analyze outmatched any algorithm, while Rylan's adaptability and creativity allowed them to apply her insights in unpredictable ways. One evening, while reviewing a star map, Lyra paused, her gaze distant. They still watch, waiting. Betrayal. Again. Her voice was quiet, but firm. Rylan placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll be ready. You're not alone anymore. Not with me. Not with the crew. We'll face whatever comes together. The bond between them grew stronger. It was no longer simply trust born from survival. It was partnership, forged in shared purpose and mutual respect. Rylan admired her courage, her intelligence, and her resilience. Lyra respected his decisiveness, his loyalty. and his willingness to see beyond her alien nature to the person beneath. Suddenly, the ship's sensors detected a faint energy surge in the sector near a cluster of abandoned colonies.
Lyra's eyes narrowed. Drakari or
Traders? Searching. She tapped the console, analyzing patterns. Danger. Close. Must. Prepare. Rylan nodded.
We can't wait. If they find you first, all is lost. Together, they developed a plan to move quickly, striking a balance between stealth and strength.
Lyra's knowledge of the sector's hidden routes and abandoned outposts allowed them to bypass enemy patrols and avoid confrontation until absolutely necessary. As they navigated the void, Lyra shared more about her people, the culture, the hierarchy, the traditions, and the expectations of a queen. Rylan listened intently, fascinated. He realized that saving her had not only given him a powerful ally, but also exposed him to a civilization whose complexity rivaled humanity's most ambitious achievements. One night, in the quiet of the observation deck, Rylan asked, "Lyra, do you ever fear losing again?" She looked at him, her luminous eyes reflecting the stars outside. "Fear? Yes, but hope stronger. Must survive. Must fight. Alone, no more."
Her words struck him. She had survived betrayal, battle, and abandonment, yet she was still determined to reclaim her kingdom.
Rylan felt a surge of determination himself. He had saved her once, but now he was ready to fight beside her, to face the enemies of both their peoples. Days later, as they approached the edge of a disputed system, Lyra activated a hidden communication channel. She sent a message to the surviving loyalists of her people, revealing her location and urging them to prepare. Her tone was regal, commanding, and filled with authority. Rylan watched in awe as the crew realized that the fragile alien woman they had rescued was now a beacon of hope for an entire civilization. The response was immediate. Small ships and fighter crafts appeared, rallying to her call. Even though her forces were scattered and weakened, the sight of her alive inspired courage and determination. Rylan felt the weight of responsibility settle on him even more heavily. He had saved a queen, but now he had to protect her, lead her allies, and face enemies who would stop at nothing to destroy her. The first engagement came sooner than expected. A Drakari strike team attempted to ambush their fleet near a gas giant. Lyra coordinated the defense flawlessly, guiding ships into optimal positions, predicting enemy movements and issuing commands that merged human and alien strategies. Rylan piloted the lead ship, following her guidance, executing maneuvers that combined speed, precision, and intelligence. The battle was fierce, but victory came through a combination of human adaptability and Lyra's extraordinary insight. The surviving Drakari retreated, their forces shaken and confused. Rylan exhaled, glancing at Lyra. She stood at the console, calm and focused, her luminous eyes shining with determination. "You did it," he said softly. She nodded, her expression serene yet intense. Survive, protect, reclaim. In that moment, Rylan understood the full truth. Lyra was not just a survivor, not just a queen in exile. She was a force of hope and change, and he, by saving her, had become part of something far greater than himself. The path ahead would be dangerous, uncertain, and filled with challenges, but together they were unstoppable. And somewhere deep inside, Rylan realized that the universe itself had conspired to bring them together, a human and a queen, bound by survival, trust, and a shared destiny that could alter the fate of stars. The fleet moved in formation across the star system, a mix of human ships and Lyra's loyal alien vessels. Each craft glimmered against the darkness of space, their engines leading streaks of light as they advanced toward the central Drakari stronghold. Commander Rylan Kane stood on the bridge of the Ardent Light, watching the combined fleet assemble. Beside him, Lyra observed quietly, her luminous eyes reflecting the distant stars, calm, yet filled with determination. "This is it," Rylan said softly. Once we enter that system, there's no turning back. Must strike now. Delay, lose, more. Her voice was calm, precise, and carried the weight of command. She had regained the loyalty of her people, but the Drakari still held superior numbers. Every move had to be flawless. The plan was intricate. Using stealth approaches, they would disable the outer defenses of the Drakari stronghold before launching a coordinated strike from multiple angles. Lyra's knowledge of her people's technology and Ryland's human tactical experience allowed them to synchronize the fleet in ways no enemy could anticipate. As they entered the system, the Drakari defenses activated. Energy barriers shimmered around their main station, and swarms of drones moved to intercept the incoming fleet. Ryland gritted his teeth. Hold formation, follow Lyra's lead. Lyra's hands moved over the holographic interface, issuing commands with precision. Left flank, engage, synchronize. Her words flowed into the ship's AI, which executed her strategies instantly. Ships twisted and turned in coordinated patterns, dodging enemy fire while positioning themselves to strike critical targets. The battle erupted with intensity. Energy beams sliced through space, explosions lit up the darkness, and debris floated like silent witnesses to the chaos. Ryland piloted the lead human ship with focus, relying on Lyra's guidance to anticipate enemy movements. Her strategies were flawless, predicting each Drakari attack before it even occurred. Despite their careful planning, a group of enemy cruisers broke through the defenses, heading straight for Lyra's command ship. Ryland noticed the threat and called out, "Lyra, they're coming for you." She didn't flinch. Instead, she activated an energy field around her vessel, a shimmering barrier that pulsed with power. The attacking cruisers fired relentlessly, but the shield held, glowing brighter with each strike. Ryland's jaw tightened. The alien queen was more than a strategist. She was a living weapon. "Push forward! Target their engines!" Lyra commanded. Using her energy manipulation, she interfaced with the enemy ship's systems. Ryland watched in awe as the cruiser's engines destabilized, forcing them to retreat. Her control over technology was astonishing, far beyond anything human engineering could achieve. The battle raged for hours. Ships were damaged and losses were inevitable, but the alliance of human and alien forces began to turn the tide. Lyra moved seamlessly between leadership and tactical execution, her voice calm yet commanding. Ryland coordinated the human units, executing maneuvers that complemented her strategies perfectly. Together, they were unstoppable. During a critical moment, the Drakari commander activated a massive energy cannon aimed at the fleet. The blast could destroy multiple ships in seconds. Ryland's heart raced as he tried to find a way to intercept it. Lyra's hand hovered over the controls, and her eyes glowed with intense focus. She connected with the energy field, redirecting the blast into space, where it dispersed harmlessly among the asteroids. Ryland exhaled, astonished. "How did you do that?" he asked. She didn't answer with words, only a nod, her eyes calm. It was as if she had already anticipated the question and knew the answer wasn't necessary. As the battle neared its peak, Lyra ordered a full coordinated strike. Human ships targeted the enemy's weapons and shields, while alien vessels, guided by her commands, disabled critical systems. The Drakari were overwhelmed, their formations breaking apart under the precision of the combined fleet. Ryland piloted his ship through the chaos, dodging energy blasts while providing cover for Lyra's flagship. Side by side, they navigated the battlefield, a partnership forged in trust, skill, and survival. Each move they made was synchronized, a dance of strategy and courage. Finally, the Drakari flagship was exposed, its defenses down. Lyra's voice rang out, calm and commanding. "Now, strike. Together." The fleet launched a simultaneous attack, beams of energy converging on the enemy station. Explosions tore through the structure, sending debris scattering across space. The Drakari forces retreated, defeated, and broken. Victory belonged to the Alliance, human and alien, united. Ryland exhaled, leaning back in his seat. The battle was won, But the aftermath was just as important. Lyra's people began reclaiming their cities, restoring order and reuniting with survivors. Human forces helped secure critical areas, providing support and resources. The collaboration forged in battle was now building a new era of cooperation between the two civilizations. Lyra stood on the bridge, looking at the fleet. Her expression was serene, yet her eyes reflected the weight of her responsibility. Rylan approached her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he said softly. "Your people. They're safe." She turned to him, her luminous eyes meeting his. "Not alone. Survive. Together." Her words were simple, but their meaning was profound. She had reclaimed her kingdom, but she acknowledged the partnership that had made it possible. Over the following weeks, Lyra worked tirelessly to rebuild her civilization. She restored leadership, reunited scattered factions, and brought justice to those who had betrayed her. Rylan remained at her side, advising, supporting, and learning from her wisdom. Together they created plans to prevent future Drukhari attacks and strengthen the bond between humans and Lyra's people. Rylan realized that saving her had changed everything, not just for her, but for the galaxy. Their bond had grown from trust forged in survival into a partnership built on mutual respect and shared purpose. Lyra, once alone and abandoned, now had allies, strength, and hope. One evening, as they watched the stars from the observation deck, Lyra spoke softly. "Thank you, Rylan.
Woo!
Without you, not survive." Rylan smiled, shaking his head. "I only did what anyone would do. But I'm glad I was here. We saved you, but you saved all of us too. You showed us what courage, wisdom, and hope truly mean." Lyra's eyes glimmered with emotion. She had been abandoned, betrayed, and left to die, yet she had endured. Now, with her kingdom restored and the galaxy safer, she could finally embrace her role as queen, and as a leader who would shape the future with integrity and vision. The alliance of humans and Lyra's people became a model for interstellar cooperation. Trade, knowledge, and culture flowed between the civilizations, building bonds stronger than fear or war. Rylan found himself at the center of it, not as a ruler, but as a partner, a friend, and a protector. In the quiet of space, aboard the ardent light, Rylan and Lyra stood side by side, looking out at the stars. The battles had been fierce, the losses real. But the future was theirs to shape. Together, they had turned survival into triumph, despair into hope, and a single act of compassion into a legacy that would echo across galaxies. And as Lyra's luminous eyes met his, Rylan knew the truth that had guided him from the moment he found her drifting among the wreckage. Sometimes, saving one life can change the fate of worlds, and one choice can create alliances, hope, and a future beyond imagination. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and dangerous. But with courage, trust, and partnership, even the most impossible odds could be overcome. Rylan and Lyra had faced betrayal, battle, and death, yet they emerged not just alive, but victorious, and the galaxy would never be the same again. In the end, it was not just a story of war or survival. It was a story of trust, of the bond between two beings from different worlds, and of how one act of compassion could change everything. And as the stars stretched infinitely before them, both knew that their journey together had only just begun.